I fixed it! I fixed it, dude. I fixed it. I fixed it! I figured out why my WRX is smoking. Sorry guys, it's like 5 in the morning right now. I look like death. So my motor blew up and I bought a new engine and I didn't realize that it was a JDM. So I JDM swapped my Subaru without even realizing it. And there's a bunch of different things that you need to do to that engine in order for it to perform correctly. Now, I didn't know this. I had no idea. So what's going on is I have an insane amount of smoke coming out of the exhaust. I know that it's not coolant. I like just looking at it and then looking at like the residue, it's certainly oil. It's like troubling. Dude, literally like I drove down the road on a test drive and then I drove back. I turned around and drove back and it was like I couldn't see. Like it is so much smoke. I created my own fog. I'm like disrupting the weather pattern, dude. I changed my turbo and it didn't help at all because I assumed that the turbo was leaking. That was a real bummer, dude, because it's like it's acting like it is a blown turbo. And then I think that everything changed when I went to go pick my car up and I started it and it didn't smoke at all. And then I drove it all the way home for like 20 minutes. I drove it 20 minutes all the way home and I was like, oh, dude, it must have fixed itself somehow. Like something must have gotten knocked loose or something. The oil light comes on. Check the oil and there's no oil in it. And so I'm like, oh, that makes sense because it's just been burning oil. So I go and I top it off and then immediately the smoke comes back. So I'm like, okay, it's certainly now I'm certain it's something with the oil. So then I go and I ask ChatGPT what the problem might be. Now keep in mind, I did a compression test on the motor when I got it, so I know that it's not like a piston or something like that. I also have an AOS, which might be the issue, but I checked that like while it was running. I like took all the tubes off and checked for any sort of like smoke or blow by or anything. There's nothing, and there's not even really any oil. There's no oil in the intake line that goes from the AOS back to the intake. So I'm like, okay, it can't be that. So then I start talking to ChatGPT, be like, yo, dude, this is everything that's happened to the car. This is everything that I've done. What are we thinking? GPT is convinced that the return line going from the turbo all the way back to the block is the issue, or somehow it's clogged, the oil return line. And so the reason for this is that because it's gravity fed, and if it's even like a little bit restricted at all, it can back up into the turbo and then overflow, go out the intake, get sucked back into the intercooler and the intake again, and then get burned. And so it sounds kind of like, I don't know about that. I don't know, dude. Like, I'm hesitant to trust that idea. But when I installed the motor, there was a piece that was facing the wrong way for the oil return. So let me show it to you real quick. Up here is where the turbo has the spout that comes out of the bottom for the return. And I didn't know this, but on the US it goes here. This guy is talking about how this is a coolant return, and it is not. This is actually an oil return. The coolant gets returned into this one. This is also, I believe, a coolant port, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Anyway, so it comes down from here. And so what I did was mine is just like this because this is the JDM. This is the JDM one. What I did was I come all the way down here, back around and loop it to meet there. It's because the exhaust comes up through here, right? And then there's also this here, and so there's a bunch of stuff in the way. And so once I heard ChatGPT say there's a problem with that, and I know that I've fabbed it, and I know that if there's any sort of like issue or hindrance with that, like a big loop where it dips below and goes around, and it's because it's gravity fed, I'm like, oh dude, this is where I probably need to focus my thinking skills. I want to make sure that this isn't the problem. If it is, that would be insane. But if it is not the problem, then I must be missing something with blow by, or the new turbo is leaking. That's the only thing. Like, I've ruled everything else out. I've tried everything, okay? I've tried everything. So this seems like the most economical way of approaching this and seeing if this is it. Given that I did this like fabrication job, I think that there's a chance that that might be the issue. Now, I did some research. I looked into it, and this thing right here, you can remove it. You have to bend this down and hammer it from the other side. So you like hammer it down, you unscrew this bolt, hammer it down so that it hangs down below the cylinders, and then hammer it from the other side, and then stick it back in and reposition it. This guy's lucky because he doesn't have his coolant return hooked up, so he could just hammer it this way. Because like, you know, literally you just want it to fall straight down. But I looked at it on my car. Everything is in the way. There's literally no way. Like, an engine cradle or the subframe is like holding around this. Like, there's no room to get in there and do anything. Like, I can't even see the where the coolant comes down, because like the whole exhaust system is like all right there. And the turbo is sitting on top of this whole thing too. So there's no room, but I need to somehow find a way to get oil to fall into that spout. Now, there's, I think, like 4 things I could do. I could find a pipe that goes in that S shape and hope that it doesn't get clogged up, you know, from going on an angle like that. You know, if that is the problem, I'm not going to be, you know, super confident in that solution. I could pull my motor back out and bend that in the right position, which would take forever. And then I'm also thinking, like, I could drill into the oil pan and just have a direct line that goes back to the oil pan, and then block that line off, because since it's just gravity fed, there's no pressure at all. I think that I could get away with that. And I also think that there's enough room for a hose to go from there all the way down to the oil pan. Now, the other thing that I could do, if I, you know, instead of drilling into the oil pan, I think, given like my rough understanding of physics, I think that I could get a new drain plug that has a fitting on it that I could hook my line into and go directly into the oil drain plug. It just needs to be high flowing enough. Now, as far as like a permanent solution, I don't think that's a good idea, but I do think that it is the easiest way to solve this problem and basically rule this out as a possibility of failure. So this is going to be difficult because the drain plug is really thick. It's a really big drain plug. What I'm thinking is that I have an extra, like a spare Get a Dom Tune cooling mod, and I think that those thread patterns and that hose is the right, I think it's the exact same thing. And then I'm just gonna run a line from my turbo straight to that, straight into the oil pan. I know it seems like it's going from the bottom, and it's like, it's not gonna be physics, but guys, physics. Okay, you guys, so the sun is going down and I want to get this done as soon as I possibly can. Let me show you. See if you can see this. See that tube? That tube, I'm going to splice into the oil pan. I'm going to splice that into the oil pan. There's a bunch of science that goes into why this works. I know that it seems like it's going into the low point of the engine, but it actually, in theory, should work. So I'm about to do an oil change and take that return hose and basically splice it into the oil pan directly. Basically have the fastest possible way of getting oil back into the engine. Okay, I want to see if you can see that right there. Guys, do you know what this means? Do you guys know what this means? Listen to this! Dude, no fucking way! I fixed it, dude. I fixed it. You can't see my face, but I fucking fixed it. I can't believe it, dude. I literally cannot believe this. You know what needs to happen. You know where I'm headed. Guys, if you know me at all, you know exactly where we're going right now. You know exactly where we're headed. Oh my gosh, I can't even contain my excitement, brother. Holy shit. Oh my God, what a rush! Oh, she's purring. She's purring. No smoke, literally no smoke, dude. What a rush, dude.